Hi, you've clicked on to today's tropical tidbit for Friday. Over here in the Atlantic, we had Brett leave, we had Cindy leave along this frontal boundary here off to the north. They are now gone, leaving us alone in the quiet here in the deep tropics, or perhaps not so quiet. Remember last week we were talking about this tropical wave now over the central Atlantic that was back here, is now over here, and may cause some stuff that might need to be watched over the next few days. This weekend and early next week, we go into this and we see this wave, and there's a broad circulation associated with this, fairly large, not closed, not well defined yet, but it is a circulation that has been lingering as it comes westward here. And notice all this popcorn convection associated to the west of the system. This is very important because although there has been dry air wrapping in with this over the last few days, this moisture field is pretty deep here, and deceptively so due to the lack of convection that this has had. But this popcorn-like convection firing off to the west indicates that the environment is moistening ahead of the system, and thus this is going to have a chance to fire up some convection as it comes west-northwest towards the Caribbean islands, and this is going to be something that will be worthy of watching as it comes toward land here. The models initially had this coming north of the Caribbean islands, and any development was going to be possible in here. It is looking a little bit farther south than that now, however very close to the islands. What we're going to have is we're going to have this coming across. It's probably going to impact, probably not hitting Puerto Rico here, but it is going to be impacting the big Caribbean islands in here, and then it's probably going to come up across into the Bahamas and into the Florida area during the next several days. It's hard to say what the steering is exactly going to do here, but I don't think it's going to stay in the Caribbean all the way. I think it's going to get pulled up in here because there is a trough that comes across and brings a weakness in the ridge, and you can already see that the flow around the surface ridge is still like this. The nose of the ridge doesn't get all the way to Florida. So this is probably going to lift up, and it's going to be bringing some rains into this area. The question is, will tropical development be possible? Now, if we turn on the upper level winds here, there is an upper level low over Cuba, and this has been backing westward along with the tropical wave. The upper low has been backing this way at the same time that the wave was out here. So what we're getting now is we're getting upper level winds like this to the west of the system, and this is a divergent flow aloft, which is going to allow semi-favorable conditions for this wave as it comes westward. The problems for it are going to come when this upper low gets out of the way over here, and then the tropical wave is coming in towards the Bahamas and Florida, because we have this big ridge over the United States, as most of you know very well if you live near that area, which has been so hot. This upper ridge is deep layered and has this easterly flow coming around the southern flank of it, and this kind of a flow is convergent, causes sinking air, and can also serve to shear systems. If any of you remember Tropical Storm Bonnie from last season that came across Florida and on up into the Gulf Coast, that was sheared apart, and sinking air killed it around that same kind of a ridge. Now, as this wave gets close to the Bahamas and Cuba here, it may have to deal with that. If it gets in really close to the coast, it may slip under that ridge and have more favorable conditions, but at that point it would have been dealing with unfavorable conditions right up towards landfall if it was going to develop into anything. The models are not too excited about it right now. About the most aggressive I've seen in the last 24 hours is the no gaps, which shows a weak tropical storm as it nears the coast, but none of the models are really too excited right now. The ensembles hint at stuff, but this is the kind of pattern that is now bringing this into the coast. As I was saying last week, this pattern where the trough comes across, it's very quick. The trough leaves right away, and this kind of thing is going to be brought in towards the land here. And then we're going to have to watch for number two. Check out this wave. Here's our central Atlantic wave. Here's the next wave behind it, west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, and we're going to have to watch this. Both of these waves are coming in, and we're going to have a 1-2 punch of this wave coming into this region, and then the second wave following right behind it into the same general area 6 days later or so. And this is going to be important because if either of these waves develop, it could be an impact storm on land. Here's the European day, what is this, day 3, and here our wave is somewhere in here on the model over Cuba. moving west-northwest towards Florida and the eastern Gulf. Again, not showing any real development here, but our second wave is sitting back here, and if we go out to day 9, here's number 2. Again, sitting over, Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, moving off into this general direction. See the ridge over the eastern United States. Look at how zonal the flow is to the north over here. This is up at 45 north latitude, and the flow is zonal. And we have a mean trough in here in the means during this time of year. So if this flow is zonal in here, guess what? These things are getting steered west-northwest towards the coast of the United States and the Caribbean islands. And this is the kind of pattern that can be dangerous because we're heading into August now. And the pattern that sets up in August is indicative of how the peak of the hurricane season is going and is going to continue. If this kind of steering pattern continues, then we are indeed in for some of that impact season that we've been talking about. Here's the NAIFS ensemble. Sorry, these aren't zoomed in properly. This is day 4. This is Tuesday. Here's the wave over the Bahamas. Won't let me draw here. The Bahamas wave right here over Cuba and the Bahamas. If we go out, this ends up fizzling, doesn't do much on the ensemble mean as it moves into Florida. If we go out to the following Sunday, here's number 2. Again, you can see the pink model variant showing up here. Here's that second wave coming into the same area. This is a 1-2 punch. The steering pattern is not going to move very much. It's rock solid across the Atlantic for both of these waves. And this pattern overall is going to be something to watch because if we look at the GFS Ensemble's 250 millibar wind 2 weeks out from now, this is getting into the first week of August, these waves have this tut in the central Atlantic. I'll outline the winds for you guys here. Here's the tut moving like this. And this trough is what helps tropical waves strengthen on this side, the southeast flank of it, and then they have to bust through the tut, which generally will shear them a little bit near the eastern Caribbean. But look what happens once they get out the other side and start moving towards the U.S. coastline. There's this ridging going on here with anticyclonically curved winds near the United States coastline in the northwest Caribbean. So the tropical waves come through the tut and then they move into this favorable area close into the coast. This is a dangerous pattern because we can get storms that are strengthening upon landfall after being forced to come west because the tropical waves are either weaker out here or get sheared by the tut and then have to come through, and then the zonal pattern aloft brings them west-northwest towards the coast in here. This is the kind of pattern that could result in landfalls where storms are strengthening instead of weakening upon landfall, and this may be something that we need to watch closely as we head into August here. So overall, during the next week, we will be watching this wave. Broad circulation has just been tagged Invest 90L as I was making this video, and the recon plane will be moving in there in a couple days if it warrants concern, and it will be moving in just this general direction, bringing rain to the Caribbean islands and probably Florida and the Bahamas into this general region. It will be interacting with land and will have some upper level conditions that may make it slightly difficult for it to develop, but there will be points where it will be possible as well. So we will be watching this broad system to see if it can consolidate as it comes this way, and folks should keep a close eye on it just in case something comes of it, as it still looks a little bit suspicious. And then the second wave behind it will be watched as it comes in the same general direction, a 1-2 wave punch. Will either of them be a storm? Be ready if one of them is. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.